Hello, teachers. When you were still studying, have you ever experienced memorizing too many words as part of your requirement in reading, English, or spelling class? Meanings that after a few years you'll realize are not applicable to other contexts because you were taught only one of the many meanings. Has your teacher ever asked you to use words you haven't heard before? Words that you have certainly questioned when or how or why would you ever use again? Hey, welcome to the club. I have experienced the same, and I am sure there are many of us. Do we want our learners to experience the same dilemma? Oh no, no. That's why I invite you to watch this video and see how we can make some good change. This video is entitled Vocabulary Learning in Content Areas. Again, I am Miss Arjam, your today's presenter. This presentation aims the audience to, number one, understand why we need to study vocabulary words. Number two, realize that teaching vocabulary is an input, process, output learning. And number three, acquire useful vocabulary teaching strategies before, during, and after reading. Let's get started. Why do we need to teach vocabulary? Why not just let the learners read and then ask them questions about their reading to see how well they comprehend? Because vocabulary is an important element of reading comprehension. How will the learners understand the text if there are certain words that they do not understand? Right? We teach our learners to read with the goal that they will understand what they read. However, Johnson and Johnson 2003 argued that comprehension is hindered by limited vocabularies. That's why poor readers read less because they become frustrated when they encounter words that are difficult to understand. Although it is universally accepted that vocabulary, comprehension, and learning are interconnected, teaching them interconnectedly is not practiced in most classrooms. As teachers, we must understand that vocabulary should not be isolated from the content and from the context, because even if the learners know the meaning of a word, but they do not understand how the word was used in the text, comprehension will not happen. What does that mean? For example, in teaching the concept of transportation, teachers should not limit the discussion to the means of transportation on land or on four-wheeled vehicles or on machines run by fuel. Do you still remember the three levels of comprehension discussed in Chapter 4? Level 1 is literal comprehension, Level 2 interpretive, and Level 3 evaluative. After teaching them that the sentence bicycles are cheap means of transportation has a literal meaning that bicycles are way cheaper than cars and can still transport us to places, the learners also need to understand that the sentence dreams are my transportation to another world can mean that dreams transport us to a place that is not part of our reality. Finally, for us to know that the learners can comprehend beyond the literal, because transportation means moving someone or something from a place to another, they can infer that their school bus service transports them from home to school and that their teachers transport them from a state of being unknowledgeable to a state of being knowledgeable, and so on. The four critical components of effective vocabulary instruction are integration, repetition, meaningful use, and connectedness. However, teachers often overlook the importance to understand when, how, and why various instructions, strategies, and activities are needed to achieve reading comprehension and eventually literacy. Learning is a process, and in this discussion, I adopted the IPO model or the input, process, output model. We can see in the diagram that the teachers input the unknown words to the learner's cognition. For this unknown word to have sense to the learners, the teachers will execute varied content vocabulary instructions that meet the objectives of the lesson and expect that the learners will comprehend the reading or discussion after the lesson. Now, let us learn some vocabulary teaching strategies before, during, and after reading. You may get your pens and notepads to jot down or, just rewatch the video. You may use the first strategy prior to reading. Dilick and Uruk 2013 defined semantic mapping as a use of visual displays of categories and their connections, a graphic form of connecting information, and an approach to help students connect new words to their own experience and prior knowledge. What is the keyword? Connect. Good. Remember that effective content vocabulary instruction must connect. Prior to reading, you have to keep in mind that you must not give your learners a long list of overwhelming words. No long list of words, please. Nor should you provide them with highfalutin words that they will sooner or later forget, maybe even before the discussion is over. Choose words that can develop integrations and encourage personal response to targeted vocabulary words. During reading, your goal now is to repeat the words formed from your semantic map. The rule of thumb is to make them remember 5 to 6 words, not 10, not 15, not 20. Okay, teacher? 5 to 6 significant words that are part of the text to read or topic to discuss. What if the learners come across a word they really don't know? What should you do as a teacher? Here comes the CSSR system or the Context, Structure, Sound Reference System by Gray in 1946. If the learners encounter a word that they don't know, tell them to read the whole sentence. Can they guess the meaning? Are there clues in the surrounding sentences or paragraphs? Now, do they have a pretty good idea of the meaning? If yes, does their idea make sense? If yes again, then continue reading. But what if the answer here is no? Then they have to go to the next phase. Ask them to look at the parts of the word. Are there prefixes or roots that they know? Do the suffixes and inflections like the plural form or verb tenses help them? Then go back to the context again. Does it make sense? If it is still no, go to the next phase. Ask them to try to pronounce the word. When they hear it, ask them if the word rings a bell. Is it something that they already know? If not, are there letters or letter combinations that might help? Then go back to context again. Does it make sense? If it is still a no, go to the final phase, which is the most explicit explanation. Tell them to look for footnotes or margin notes. They may also check the glossary or dictionary. They may also ask someone for help, could be a friend, their teacher, or anyone else. After the discussion, of course, you do not want your learners to just forget everything. Now is the time that the class can collect the final vocabulary word bank through the VSS or vocabulary self-collection strategy. How is it done? First, pair the students and ask each pair to choose one word or term from the reading or discussion that should be included in the word bank. Next, each pair should study their word carefully because they have to nominate their chosen word, telling the class where the word was found, what for them is the meaning of the word, and defend why the word should be included in the word bank. Then you, teacher, should write the nominated words on the board. If possible, include the given meaning. After defending their words, the class has to vote for the top 5 words. Again, teacher, top 5, not top 10. Okay? Finally, refine and agree on the definition of the final chosen words. This strategy allows learners to have ownership of their learning. Moreover, because the words are repeatedly discussed, there is a bigger chance that the words will be retained in their memory. There are other strategies that you may use in vocabulary instruction. There is the list group label strategy, which is similar with semantic mapping. However, it is more systematic because instead of randomly writing words connected to the main word, after the learners generate a list of all the words they associated with the target vocabulary, they then group the words in different categories and label each. If the class is divided into groups, each group may either have the same or different category labels. For example, if there are food words on their list, they may group them according to the basic food groups, or to fruits and vegetables, or by color, etc. Another one is the interactive cloze, where the teacher prepares a very short passage that the learners haven't previously read. The teacher will remove some words, ideally 10 to 15 word deletions only, depending on the length of the passage. However, you must remember that a good portion of the first and last sentences should be left intact. For beginners, you may provide a word list, but for intermediate or advanced learners, you may want them to think of words that would make the passage meaningful. Words may be different from the original. The goal is to see if the learners can provide words that would context fit. The last one is the Verbal Visual Word Association by Hopkins and Bean, 1998-1999. In this strategy, you will ask your learners to create vocabulary boxes, which each contain 4 squares. They will write the structural element in the upper left square. For example, port, P-O-R-T. Then, on the upper right square is the target word, which in this case is import. On the lower left square is the meaning of the structural element port, and that means to carry. And then on the lower right square is the visual representation of the target word, and here the visual representation of the word import. Hopkins and Bean found out that this approach personalized vocabulary learning in such a way that the learners were able to use their strengths and address their weaknesses. All right, wrap up time. We have discussed why there is a need to teach content vocabulary, and here we have four reasons. And we also have seen the IPO or Input Process Output Model of vocabulary teaching. So, what's your favorite among these strategies to teach content vocabulary before, during, and after reading? What do you think, teacher? Is it worth it to teach a long list of words to remember or keep a 5-item word bank? How do you teach vocabulary? You might want to share yours. Just comment in the comment section and let's share our ideas. We might help other teachers too. Before I end, please remember that no matter how many books we ask our learners to read, we have to train them to love reading the Bible. For according to 2 Timothy 3 verses 16 and 17, all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. See you on my next video. Happy teaching!